I just the Bears seem to really want to aggressively find a lot of positives in Caleb Williams and his most recent performance. I want to know, now that you've looked at the film, what's your first takeaway on where he stands?
Yeah, I think so. This week it was kind of like, hey, is it time to panic? Right? That was kind of like what I went into it with. Um, Transparently, man, I think it a little bit with the staff, kind of what we've got going on. We had some pretty egregious, I think, play calling issues, but I also think just like time management. Like I just think like overall handling of the game about as bad as it can get, especially when you look at the Colts. I mean, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about the Chicago Bears offensive line cannot handle like when the tackle in the end on the defense twist, right? We talked about it on the show. We're like, hey guys, we can't block anybody. We can't even block 5-on-4 straight up, right? Where it's like they're just twisting. And then the Colts, a lot of dropbacks, like they had no line movement. So you have to say, going into it, arguably the worst defensive game plan you could have for the Bears offensive line. And we still struggled. So to me, it's like, I just think maybe time to panic a little bit with the staff. I don't think like full blown, hey, run everybody out of town. I do think it's like, man, we got to have our ears up and start looking around. Caleb, I don't feel like that as much. And I know like Jaden Daniels last night is making it worse for Caleb. But I don't really walk away from the tape thinking, man, I think Caleb played horribly.
Tim, the play that we've all been talking about and you highlighted was the deep ball to Rome. You said he dropped it in the bucket down the left sideline. What is the level of difficulty for Caleb to make that throw and put it in that spot?
I think, yeah, those are the kind of throws that when you watch Jaden Daniels play, there's a lot of people that sit there and they go like, oh man, we maybe picked the wrong guy. You know, you watch Bo Nix, he had a decent game, which then also makes it worse for Caleb. But Caleb's throw between that drop in the bucket, the degree of difficulty of that is insane, right? If you're like, oh Tim, I think it's easy. Take your trash can outside, flip the lid up, walk it out 30 yards, throw it, tweet it at me. If you do that, we'll take care of you, right? I should start training you. But like it's insanely tough. The boot, though, to me was the craziest play I think I saw the whole week, where he starts to boot, the DN doesn't bite on it, right? The DN's running right at him. He like stops, spins, sprints full speed, and then cuts the ball across his body to Komet. Like that was another great throw. They finally got Komet involved. So like I think like what we thought we were getting with Caleb from the playmaking ability, the high end arm ability we're getting. My fear with Caleb more is like I see him doing a lot at the line of scrimmage too. Like I see him remike IDing, I see him killing, right? Getting from one play to another play. I see him doing all this stuff, and then it's still like, hey, we kill, and then we run the ball and it's a 2-yard gain. So to me, it's like I'm not as worried about Caleb because you wouldn't keep letting him kill the play if he was doing it incorrectly. What I'm more worried about is like we had a look that we said, hey, Caleb, kill this play to this if we get this look. And we schemed it up so perfect that we gained 2 yards. Like that's the concern for me. The concern isn't the rookie quarterback killing it. It's the fact that like, what are we doing that we feel certain on? Let's check speed option, fourth and inches. Like those are the things where I'm like, this is mind-boggling to me. And it doesn't really have anything to do with the rookie quarterback. We're just taking it out on the rookie quarterback because everything we've been through.
I'm glad you brought that up, Tim, because we talked about this earlier. Like they're obviously putting a lot on Caleb's plate because he can handle it. So I don't want to say this as if they should take it off his plate because and handle him with kid gloves. But I wonder if what the balance there is with, hey, this quarterback can handle all these checks and all these kills. We can give him whatever we want. But also, like, if your line's not playing well, if your running game's not there, like, should they still ask Caleb to do all those things if they're not getting the help from other places? Or if he can handle it, you might as well give it to him.
Yeah, I think to me, I would be in the boat of like, hey, if he can handle it, give it to him. With that being said, what I'd be giving to him is hopefully like, hey man, if you kill it against this look, we've got a perfect look for it. Hopefully we're not gaining 2 yards, right? Like when you really see the guys that all started this whole thing with kills and alerts, when you saw Brady check, you saw Peyton check. Peyton didn't kill, and then all of a sudden it's a 4-yard gain, right? Peyton killed, and Edgerrin James was going for 14, right? Because it was like, hey man, we got a perfect look. We've got an answer for this. let's go. My issue is that our kills and our wipe offs and our alerts, we're getting into what looks like a terrible look. And again, like you could say like,
That's
oh,
the
well, it's 'cause they're trying
opposite
to
of the
develop Caleb, and
intent.
Caleb's doing it wrong. It's just, there's no shot that that's what's going on. Like, we had an offensive coordinator who lived through the Houston game where we couldn't block a soul, decide that our left tackle is going to arc release climb to a backer and block a linebacker in space on the speed option play at the goal line. You know what ended up happening? We had 2 guys free and our left tackle was on the ground, right? Like, that's design. And I'm not even mad at 70, right? I'm not even mad at our left tackle. If I'm asking you to do something you're incapable of doing and you're on my roster and it's who I've got, that's me. That's the coach. That has nothing to do with the player. At some point, we have to realize we're not going to have 11 great players at every spot. There's 4 superstars and 7 guys that we need to make sure they're in the right spot. That's why I make whatever amount of millions of dollars coaching, is because I put them in the right spot, right? That's what it should be.
I think that's a fundamental question then. When you say play calling, how much of that is just the design of the play itself, who's standing where, and how much of that are you criticizing, asking people to do things they shouldn't be doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, I think that's a great question. And I think if I'm being really honest, 50-50, right? Okay, so half of it's X's and O's, right? You have to design a play that attacks. Hey, when we're facing cover 3, we have to stress the curl flat defender, right? Like, that's the design. How are we going to stress him? That's the 50. The other 50 is not X's and O's, right? As you guys know, Jimmy's and Joe's. Do I have a guy that can stress this defender playing this spot? And if I don't, how can I motion somebody else into that spot? Or, hey, when we're in 2 jet and we need to block the 4 down in the will, do I have 5 linemen that can do that? Nope, we're facing a good D end this week, Tim. You don't have that? Well, then I need to be able to get someone to chip that dude inside. And like, it's hard because when I did the breakdown this week, I got like pissed off because
at what
there are certain things where it's so bad, and I'm like getting like that again. And my wife's like, you got to work on your blood pressure, right? I'm like, so I'm getting all fired up again. I'm not even gonna be able to come on the show anymore, right? My old bride's gonna pull me off of it. But it's just like, it's frustrating, and it's really frustrating because I think and I've been covering this team now for 2 years, and it's like I can feel it in Chicago. All they want is halfway respectable football, and we can't even give them that. It's like we go play on Sunday night national TV, and it's like we can't even protect 5-on-4. Like, that's how embarrassing it is to be a Bears fan at times. You sit there and you go, my God, I love the Bears. I've loved them my whole life, and we have 1 extra lineman, we can't even block it. Or we play the Colts, and it's like they're trying to give us this game, and we're checking into like tight end flare screen on 3rd and 9. And you guys know me, I'm a Komet defender. I'm on team Komet, but like, he's not our 3rd and 9 flare guy. Literally, we have one of the best in the league. Give it to DJ Moore if you want to do that. And like, I do think I have to have some grace for Waldron of like, I don't know the communication between him and Eberflus. If it's like that 3rd and 9 play, if Eberflus is telling him, hey buddy, this is 40 on territory. So he throws that trying to get to 4th and 6, 4th and 5. And then all of a sudden Eberflus is like, never mind, field goal. If that's what's going on, like, and I'm Waldron, at some point, you're only as good as the tape you're putting out there. And like, if this happens week 12, week 13, and we're on our way out, like, I'm probably going to square up Eberflus because like, you're making me look awful at this point. With that being said, like, some of the play calls are just inexcusable.
You know,
sorry about that. I just get like so.
No,
like,
no. What do you think you're here for?
This is great.
This is the point of it. Like, we're all feeling this way, you can just describe it better than we can. Where I'm looking at, I'm just seeing an entire offense on the goal line with the entire offensive line literally lying on the ground, and they lose 12 yards. I know that's bad, but I don't know that I can articulate why it's bad the same way you can, and that's why you're here.
And Tim, you brought up Colt Kmet, and one of the things we've been talking about today is the 2 drives in the 4th quarter where Cole was used a lot, Rome was used a lot, Caleb got in a rhythm. When you watched those, what were you seeing that worked? Obviously, Caleb got in a rhythm. He was accurate. So like, his own physical stuff was doing what it's supposed to do. But what stood out to you from play calling, protection, route, everything from those 2 touchdown drives?
Yeah, to me, it was like, here's what Caleb does well in the NFL so far, and I can tell you with certainty, is horizontal stretch, meaning, we've got a speed out paired with a stick route. So speed out's 4 steps, heading right to the sideline. Stick is, think of it as 4 steps, but it's a tight turn instead of heading fully out. Like horizontal stretch, shallow crosses, he's great at. They intermix horizontal stretch. When he plays on time from the pocket, he's great. Right now, for Caleb to push the ball down the field, I think the most effective way is run and play action. Here's why I think this helps him, and I think it helps a lot of rookie quarterbacks. You watched Jayden Daniels last night. He was 1 for 2 on straight drop back. Hey, I'm going to air it out. He's a lot better when, hey, we work in some run and play action. The reason I think that, if I'm being completely honest, is you take his eyes off the defense, which is counterintuitive. But I do think to some degree, if you turn your back to the defense, you sell the fake, and then you pop up, you eliminate all that, like, I'm trying to process every detail. And if you try to process every detail in your drop back as a rookie, all you're going to see in the NFL is a bunch of stuff that doesn't make sense. Because your whole life, you go against Penn State and they run cover 2, and they've always run cover 2, and they run cover 2 exactly the way cover 2 is supposed to be. This safety's at 12, this safety's at 12. Boom, their angles are perfect. Why? Because they're limited athletically. You go play whoever you want to play in the NFL. Guess what? The strong safety isn't just going to be at 12. He's going to sometimes take some snaps at 7. He'll take it at 11. He's going to still get to the same spot. So to me, it's like the beauty of when you turn your back to the line of scrimmage as a rookie is, one, we get guys out of position because of run and play action. But also it's like all that stuff that didn't make sense, by the time you snap your eyes back around to locate, they're in the spot they're supposed to be, right? They have to. It's post-snap. So to me, it's like, I really think for Caleb, what you saw in those last few drives was you saw horizontal stretch where he can play on time, be decisive in quick game. And then you started turning his back to the line of scrimmage when you were ripping some shots, which really helps him. Because to me, it's like, the ball on the sideline to Rome where he's running the deep over, beautiful throw. Then you had another one where it's like a deep sit, beautiful throw, both with your back turned to the line of scrimmage. And then also we had one where it's like we're trying to throw a straight takeoff and my buddy airmails it by 10 yards, which just isn't Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is not an airmail by 10 yards. And then what I think part of it happens is like, oh, I tried to move this safety. I tried to do this. You try to do this. And it's like, we don't have to always do all that. But as a rookie, naturally, there's a lot of stuff going on, right? Like, we used to joke about it. Like every time, you turn your back and you run play action, you turn around the NFL, some stuff's changed, right? You look back there, you're like, oh, this isn't what I thought pre-snap. But sometimes it helps you have actually more discipline with your eyes, because by the time you're trying to process it, it's already done. Hey, I know where to go with the football. Whereas then there's other times where it's like, man, in my drop back, this is so muddy that, oh, I'm just going to get to my check down, or, oh, I'm just going to get to this guy. So I think what they did was they played horizontal stretch with him in the pocket playing on time. And then we turned his back a little bit, and some of those deep shots started rolling.
That is fascinating to think that less is more in that regard. And when he has talked about hurrying his drops sometimes, I'm wondering if that is as much mental as it is physical. And if, in fact, they can get the mechanics of the under center play action drop, how maybe they just don't trust it. Maybe they don't think the feet or the shoulders or anything are where they need to be because he just hasn't done it enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think he hasn't done it that much leading into it, but I tell you, they ran, we call it samurai, right? The deep post on one side with a deep over running from the other side to that side. They've run it once this season. We're 1 for 1 for like 28 yards. Like there's a reason every other NFL team on planet Earth runs it, and like Houston runs it 3 times a game, right? Because it's a great concept. It's hard to cover all the way across the field. And to me, it's actually a decent 2-beater with how many 2-high safety looks we're seeing in the league right now. So to me, I think like they may not think he can do it, but if you were to look at just like when they've done it with him, the other one was like a deep, it's like a read sit route where you really run to 15, sit down. It's like he ripped on that too. Like to me, it's like when they've done it, he's done great. So to me, I'm like, I don't know why they wouldn't trust him. I think it's actually easier than what they ask him to do in the boot game, where it's like it's hard play action and then you get out of there, because that is like, that's where you had to make that incredible play, because it's like if the D ends upfield, you're dead to rights, you're screwed. So I don't know. I would love to see more of that. I would love to continue to see more of the quick game where it's like he can just get the ball out of his hand, because I think it's another way to almost force them into that single high coverage because they need more underneath defenders if we're getting the ball out of our paw quick. And then, I mean, I do like the increased use of Kmet. For everything I've dumped on Waldron about, the increased use of Kmet, I do think was finally we got him out there, and he's needed out there. I think they're trying to work other tight ends, and I just think Kmet's the guy. Let him go out there, let him work most of the time. If you want to get into 12, get into 12. But like, to me, Kmet's the answer when you're in 11.
Tim, how much should Caleb be involved in kind of the game planning? Like I don't want him to be anointing this guy in the third week of his NFL career as like he needs to have more say. And I don't know how much say he has. I know these are collaborative things, but you know, do you reach a point as a quarterback where it's like, you know what, guys, these things aren't helping me. I need to assert myself. I'm the number one pick. Like, is there like how, you know, that's a line he has to toe if he's going to do that. But like, what would you say? What would you suggest in terms of how involved he should be in those kind of things?
I don't think he needs to toe it. Like, if I'm being honest with you, I think like what you said is perfect. He needs to be in there because here's the reality. And I don't mean this as like an insult, but like the organization just ran another first round quarterback out of there who it's like, I don't know. And again, like this isn't Fields versus Caleb, but it's like just the facts of the matter are like, hey, he's not with Chicago anymore. And he didn't have any say. So to me, it's like, he needs say, right? And if I'm Waldron, I want him in there because like I am going to get judged based on how this kid does. And I want you to be telling me what you're comfortable with, what you're not comfortable with. Like, I think he needs to be highly involved. Like there needs to be some degree of like, hey, dude, your headset's out. Call this series during practice. Like I would, like to me, if I'm an offensive coordinator, like I would be, hey, here's a team period. It's on you. You pick because I want to know, hey, if I wasn't involved, what would you call? Because I want to know, hey, okay, you're super comfortable with these. Here's a situation you like it. Like to me, I'm like always trying to figure out how can you put an athlete in a situation where like he doesn't know something's coming and like his back's against the wall. Okay, here's what he reverted to. That's my baseline. That's where I need to call from. You know, I don't know what they're doing at practice in regards to that stuff. I don't know what their 2-minute plan is. But to me, those are some situations where it's like in practice, I want to know what he's feeling. And then also it's like, hey, man, here's where I'm seeing you're most effective. You know, you relay to me why you think that's happening. Like, I think those kind of conversations need to be happening if they're not. But if I'm Caleb or if I'm in Caleb's corner, dude, you get your butt in there and you start dictating some of this because, you know, we all love Caleb Williams right now. And I think it's way too early to judge this kid. We're not going to feel like that in 2 years. And people don't count a year wasted with a bad head coach and an OC. They still treat it all the same, right? Like Sam Darnold, now he's in Minnesota, but like he's doing well. But again, like we didn't give him, there wasn't a lot of people like trying to cut him slack because the Jets were dysfunctional, right? Like he was just out. So to me, if I'm Caleb and I learn anything from when I look around the National Football League is like, everybody loves me right now. They're still willing to give me a chance. I need to get my butt in that room and start advocating for a little bit of the concepts that I love, if he's not already doing that.
We're already here. Tim Jenkins, outstanding as always, and we sentence you to yet another week of watching Bears offense as they take on the Rams.
Appreciate you, fellas. Thank you so much.
That is Tim Jenkins. There are a lot of texters who are saying they feel validated, they feel seen, and it's, you know, this is a guy who does this for a living. Watching some of it, it's not great.
No, I heard this earlier on the morning show that was just a bad watch. The whole game was just like, and not only that, Dan, did you notice that game was longer than it like, there was one point where we looked up at the clock and we're like, how are there 8 minutes left in the third quarter of this game? You have penalties and injuries, and then you have to watch the Bears nonsense, and the Colts had their own nonsense, and it was just a nonsense fest, and neither team wanted to score touchdowns. And
you're talking about my whole life here. Watching awful Bears football, yeah. It's helped make me who I am. So blame the Bears.
You know, each week it's been the first week with Shane Waldron. You actually saw some schemes that worked, and it was bad personnel. Then the next week, nobody's running the ball, no pass protection. Then the next week, the play calling is very confusing, still no run game. So what does you have in store for week 4?